Be a shepherd. Welcome to iDominateLife. This is my daily video blog of empowerment and encouragement to help elevate your life to the highest possible levels. All week I've been talking about this story. I've been sharing this story that I find more and more fascinating as I look at it. It's a story that actually comes out of the Bible about a guy named Peter who was on a boat, and he was sailing across the sea with some associates of his, some of the other disciples, and in the middle of the trip that they were making, while they were in the middle of the sea, the waves and the wind and everything starts to kick up, and they're pretty much involved in a storm. And while this is happening, there's a lot taking place. There are a lot of different perspectives that are going on, and all week I've been really looking at the different perspectives. And I've actually never done this before, but as I looked at this story with Peter and just kept looking at it over and over, I've always seen the part where Peter gets out of the boat, he's celebrated, that's real cool. But never before had I really take time to consider the perspectives of everyone involved in the situation and just all the different perspectives that you can have. And so I've been doing that this week, and I entitled all the messages, you see, what you see is what you get, because what was focused on by Peter, by the disciples, that's what they ended up getting. And so Peter decided, you know what, I'm going to focus on the solution, and I'm going to get out of this boat. Peter ends up walking on water. The other disciples, they focused on being afraid. They focused on fear. And they didn't make the same move that Peter made. And so their experience was one where they never experienced walking on water. They just had to, they knew the guy that walked on water. And we all know people like that. They never make things happen. They just always know the person that made something happen. And so those are those other guys. We don't know them even by name. And so often in life we look at the different perspectives, and we see things from the perspective of the problem. We see it from the perspective of the storm. But today I want to highlight there's even another perspective. There's Peter's perspective. There's the perspective of the guys in the boat who ended up just soggy and without a life-changing experience, where they actually had the opportunity to experience it. They saw Peter, but they didn't know what it's like to walk on water. And then there's a perspective of what I'm calling the answer. Because in the middle of this story, when they're in the water, the winds are blowing, it says that while the winds and they were blowing and everything was contrary, in the midst of the sea, they're being tossed by waves. The wind was contrary. So, like you and I and everyone, they were in the middle, because it says in the midst, they were in the middle of conflict. They were in the middle of a situation of conflict. And so in that situation, they're afraid. They're afraid when they saw the answer coming, because it says in the story that when they saw Jesus coming, they were afraid. They thought he was a spirit, and they were afraid. And so here it is, in the middle of the conflict, the answer is coming to them. And when they saw the answer, they were afraid of it. And so often, that's what happens with us. We can be in a situation, see an answer coming towards us, see things getting better, and at the same time, we become afraid because our perspective of the answer is now already clouded by our fear in the situation. And so we're messed up. And so what we see that could help us, we're so messed up in our minds, in our perspective, because we focus now on the fear that we don't take certain actions now. And so Jesus, here it is, the answer, because Jesus was the answer to their situation. The answer went out to them. And so here's the answer coming to them. They're afraid of it. And so in the answer, when he comes, this is what he says. He says, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid." And so they're afraid. And their answer comes speaking life, speaking peace, speaking something that would settle them. But they were afraid of that initially. They were so focused on their fears that they didn't realize what was coming their way. And the one guy, Peter, says, all right, so, and I'm paraphrasing, he says, all right, so if you're the answer to my situation, call me out to you. And so Jesus says to him simply, come. See, your answer is even though your answer is pursuing you, you still have to go out to your answer as well. It's not going to just come all the way to you. You're not going to be able to just sit on the couch. You're not going to be able to just stay where you're at and see the answer come. See, if you want to be more healthy, then at some point you can have people all around you. You can buy different products. You can buy the latest, greatest fads, all the gym clothes you want. But if you never get up and start moving towards your answer, then your problem will never be solved, because it can come to you. You can get answers, you can see videos, you can see DVDs, you can watch this, but at some point, if you don't start moving towards your answer, your problem will never be solved. And so Peter says, if it's you, if you're the answer, then tell me to come out to you. He started looking for proof that this was the answer that he was looking for. And so Peter's perspective was, I see something out there that I want. He could have stayed in the boat. He could have said, if you're the answer, come get on the boat with us. But Peter said, I see something out there that is just a little bit more awesome than what I'm doing here with these guys. See, out there, my answer is walking on water. Over here, I'm in the boat getting soggy. And so Peter wanted to know. Peter wanted to know that experience. He wanted to go out and do something that he had never done before, because he had been here. He knew what it was like to be soggy in a boat. No big deal. But he wanted something more. So he starts calling out for that answer. Hey, call me out there to do what you're doing. And so the answer says, come. And then Peter starts walking on water. And then after a while, Peter loses focus, starts looking at the wind and everything like that. And he begins to sink. Then he calls out for his answer. Here, save me. Save me, save me. And Jesus reaches out his hand and he lifts Peter up. And then Jesus asks him this question. Well, first he tells him, he says, you have little faith. You have little faith. Why did you doubt? Here it is. You were bold enough and courageous enough to step out and start moving towards your answer. The thing that would change your life dramatically. The thing that would give you the awesome experience. And then when you got out there, you got afraid. Well, just know, wherever you're at in the story, you might be Peter in the boat getting ready to step out. You might be Peter right now walking on water, doing something unbelievable. Well, just know that there's another piece. There's a piece where when you start to see the situations around you, you become afraid. And so, since you know that's coming, start preparing yourself to not be afraid. Because if you could not be afraid, you won't have to sink like Peter did. See, we can look at the story, and Peter, I'm thankful that he stepped out of the boat, because now we have something to look at. But I'm also saying to you and to myself that because Peter started to sink when he saw the storm again, we don't have to again go back and do what Peter did and look at the storm. We can start settling ourselves right now to say, you know what? When the storm begins to blow while I'm walking on water, I'm going to stay focused on the answer, because that's what I want to go to. That's what the experience I want to have. And so Jesus asked him, well, you have little faith, why did you doubt? And then they go back to the boat. They get on the boat, and the winds and everything stops. It becomes peaceful. The winds cease. And I was thinking about this. Perhaps the wind and everything had to blow for the sake of Peter. Perhaps if the wind wasn't blowing and the storm wasn't happening, they weren't in the middle of it, Peter would have never stepped out of the boat. He would have never had the experience. But because he did all that, he was able to take something now back to where he came from and share life that impacted those guys and that stopped the storm, not only for Peter, but it stopped the storm for everyone, including the answer. The storm stopped for everything. The answer for Peter, for the guys on the boat. And because Peter stepped out, he had an experience that no one else had. And he went back with that. And guess what they asked him? I'm sure they asked him at some point, Peter, what was that like? Pete, come on, tell me. What was it like to walk on water? And that's what people will do for you. They'll ask you, what was it like to do that? What was it like to start your own business? What was it like to, lose 100 pounds? What was it like to experience the answer? What was it like to walk towards your answer? To wake up every day and do this, to do that. What was it like? And so that's the That's the opportunity that you have. You have an opportunity to live in such a way that you can then experience something, take it back to someone else, and they can ask you, what was it like? And you can tell them. Right now, you have a choice to make. You have a lot of different perspectives, but you have a choice to make that will allow you to dominate life. And I hope you make that choice. Thanks for joining me. See you next time. Have a great day.